Hello, and welcome to this FinTech Wales Fireside chat. Today, who better to join us but Anne Boden, MBE, one of Swansea's very own computer science graduates, to celebrate Wales Tech Week. Today's webinar is sponsored by EY and being hosted at Tramshed Tech, and I'd like to thank you for your support. FinTech Wales, for those of you who don't know us, is a not-for-profit members organisation focused on establishing Wales as a globally recognised FinTech hub of excellence. I'm your host, Sarah Williams-Gardner, joined today by Anne Boden, MBE, who, in her very own words, describes herself as incredibly passionate about making banking relevant and useful. Having spent most of her career in the traditional banking sector, she concluded that the only way she was going to achieve that aim was to leave and build her own bank. Before we kick off, I'm going to do a shameless plug for FinTech Wales. It's a members organisation open to all Welsh fintechs, financial institutions, supporting services companies who share our passion and vision to create here in Wales a fully inclusive, supportive fintech ecosystem that enables fintechs to establish, flourish, and succeed thanks to the availability of the very best talent, skills, and investment, enabling them to make a tangible impact on the global and local stage. If you're not already a member, I'd encourage you to join us, amplifying our thriving fintechs on the global stage. So today, our guest, Anne Boden, she's widely recognised as having a reputation as a fearless financier. She's a fintech pioneer, having had a significant impact in disrupting the banking industry. Having built Starling Bank, which today serves way over 2 million customers, and I'm sure Anne will update me on that number because I know it's always growing. And it's great to see you today. Returning virtually to Wales, let me extend a warm and metaphorical croeso yn Cymru, Anne, and welcome to Wales.
Thank you very much.
This is a fabulous opportunity for the two of us to catch up. It's been a little while since we last spoke. Lots has been happening at Starling. The journey just seems to get better and better. And it's brilliant to see that, you know, what we set out to do way back then, was it 2014, 2015, round a small coffee table, Anne, was to make banking better for all. And that's just got more and more and more. So today, what we've said is we'll look at your journey from Swansea to being a fintech disruptor, where Starling is today, and the fact that you've opened your office here in Wales, in Cardiff, which we're delighted about, and also the banking industry, where it is today and where you see it going over the next 5 years. I'm really delighted that you're able to join us. It's lovely for us to catch up. For all of those that are listening, we might just go off and have a little chat ourselves, but we'll see what we can do. Anne, I recall you saying way back when you wanted a job with a briefcase. So let's start with that journey from Boden, growing up in Swansea. What was the environment like back then that allowed you to flourish?
I think that I was the child of very ordinary parents. My father worked in the steel industry. My mother worked in a local department store in Swansea. And I went to the local comprehensive school. But I was always very, very curious. I spent a lot of my time finding out about the world through books, to going to the library, to hanging out in the one bookstore in Swansea. Really, I spent a lot of my time in the Uplands bookstore, in looking through all the academic books. But I came from a background that was not academic, but I was really, really curious about the world.
So Anne, when I look at my end of school reports, often it's sort of said that, this is someone who in the class works really, really hard. She's destined or capable of great things. If only she'd stop looking out of the window. So talking about being a curious child, how do you think your teachers would have described you back then? I'm sure they've been in contact with you since, or people from your early days. How would your sort of colleagues, other students, have described you as that curious child?
I think I was quite quiet. I hated sport and loved dancing. So really, really look forward to a rainy day when we wouldn't have to go out and sort of play netball. We could go into the sports hall and do dancing. That was me. I wasn't sporty. I loved maths. I was quite diligent, and people were surprised when I really did really well at O levels.
And fantastic. And you went on from that to be a computer science graduate at Swansea University. And back then, how many girls were doing computer science at Swansea? Presumably it was still quite a new degree course at the time.
Yeah, I did computer science and chemistry because they didn't think computer science could be a whole degree. So I did a joint honours degree. There were 3 of us doing computer science, and I loved it. Chemistry was full of dangerous things in labs, and I was a bit accident prone. I still can't cook, but computer science was easy for me, and I really enjoyed it. And all of a sudden I found something that I engaged with and really enjoyed, and felt that I could build my career in computing.
Excellent. So thank you, Anne. And so from Swansea, then you headed up the M4. So what was it that what was it that appealed to you about going up the M4? You started your journey in banking. Let's start that journey.
I didn't want to go to London. I had this idea of having a job in some rural town, and I applied for lots of jobs in places like Worcester and rural places, not city places. And my mum said, please apply for one normal job in a bank. And I applied for a job in Lloyds Bank, that was Welsh, obviously, and got it. And all of a sudden, I was in this very, very competitive environment as a graduate intake into Lloyds Bank in 1981. And coming to London wasn't the intention. Coming to London was something that happened. And when I came to London and realized somebody was going to pay me for doing this, it was marvelous. How can you possibly have a job where you can spend all day long playing with computers and somebody pays you for it? All of a sudden, I thought, well, if this is work, give me more of it, because I love every minute of it. I was much better at work than I was at the academic world. I loved computing. And I loved, the whole idea of getting stuck into the banking scene in London. I did 6 weeks learning all the things in Lloyds Bank about, their programming languages and whatever. And then I went into a branch and I did a 6 months spell in Hampstead branch, where I did all the jobs in the branch, from serving on the counter to putting the cash in the ATMs to talking to customers. So it's quite an intensive 6 months, and I loved it. But I was really looking forward to getting back into head office and getting involved in computing again.
Excellent. And your career flourished from there, Anne. We'll be here. We'll take up the whole hour if we go through your CV. But you took that leap. You started with Lloyds, and clearly it's very clear to see how passionate you are about everything. Was there a decision point or a fork in the road that, on reflection of your career, that sort of really speared you to where you are today, or what made you do what you're doing today?
I think I spent most of my career in big corporate jobs, going sideways and up, down, and whatever. It's a career is never planned. It happens to you. Post financial crisis, I went to Ireland to be chief operating officer of Allied Irish Banks, and my job was to return the bank to profitability. And it involved, a lot of redundancies, a lot of cost cutting, and also going out into small towns all over Ireland, talking to customers. And these are people that lost their livelihood in the financial crisis. The financial crisis had really put Ireland through it. It was really, really horrible for lots of people. And I came to feel that somehow the banking um, business was responsible for causing a lot of heartache. But my job was to return the bank to profitability. So I went around the world looking for ideas, trying to find out what people were doing with their banking systems. What were they doing to reconfigure their systems and their branches and their business models? And everybody was telling me the same thing. Whether I was in Australia or in the States, they were going to refurbish the branches and move everything onto digital. And I remember I remember talking um, the CEO of a bank in Australia into allowing me to spend the day in a suburban branch outside Sydney. And I spent the day in the branch and I talked to the local customers. And this was a really new refurbished branch where they were doing all nice new things. And the customers were telling me that they didn't want this, they didn't need somewhere to go in order to have a conversation when they could do it digitally. But the branch kept wanting to come in and do stuff. Anyway, I came back from Australia and decided, that I was going to try and think differently, add a bit more innovation into what we were doing. But at the end of 2013, I decided that the easiest thing to do was to start a new bank. And that's the story of starting Starling.
And I can't believe you're saying the easiest thing to do was start a new bank, because I know that was not easy for you. It was a very bold decision to make. But just talk us through those first early days. We've had these discussions, but for those people listening, I know it was tough. Being a banker after 2008 wasn't actually the coolest thing to do. It wasn't the reason people were going to come up and talk to you in a drinks party or a networking room. So just talk us through how that was like, leaving the comfort of the corporate world behind to make this difference and to change the world and do exactly what you're saying, which, to set out on that ambition to make banking useful for people.
Well, I started in January 2014, thinking it was going to be very easy. As all I need to do is to raise a couple of 100 million. And this was my pitch. My pitch was banking needs to change. And if we had a bank with all new technology that did everything from scratch, that had a new business model, a new way of engaging with customers, that did things in a new, interesting way, then the customers would flock. And it's all you need to do is give me a few 100 million and I'll get it going. And people didn't believe me. People didn't believe that you could build the technology from scratch. People didn't believe that a new business model was possible. Surely current accounts are loss making. And people didn't believe that a 5-foot-tall Welsh woman like me could actually do it. But it was the start of a journey. And I spent a couple of years raising money. And along the way, I meet Sarah. Okay. And that story is lots of ups and downs of startup life. Yeah. Where I'm very grateful for all the people I met on the way that joined Starling for a period and did their bit to create one of sort of the UK's fastest growing banks. And it was all a question of talking people into the vision. And lots of people decided to spend some time working on the vision. And I'm ever so grateful for their contribution, including your contribution, Sarah.
Oh, bless you. That's very kind of you. But let's not underestimate. You've built a unicorn, Anne, in 7 years. I mean, this is no mean feat. And for those of us that have read your book, it talks, Anne's book, plug it, banking on it, well worth a read. Go buy it. it talks about the story, but do you think actually being a woman was different? So do you think it would have been easier? Or do you think men would have had an easier ride? You know, what were those highs and highs? Share some of those highs and lows from those
Yeah,
early days with us.
I think people invest in people that look and sound like themselves. And most VCs are, you know, are guys in their 30s or 40s with beards, are all dressed exactly the same, actually, and pitching to that cadre of people your idea. It is easier if you sound and look like them, and this is an issue faced by lots of people, not just women, um, in that you have to fit in really in order to get that investment. But as I tell everybody, it's just a question of the numbers. You have to have more and more meetings, have more and more introductions, and you'll eventually get there.
And as I said, congratulations, you are running and you have built a unicorn. So I'm sure, well, we'll come on to it. You'll have plenty of other things that you still want to do, but you have, I think you have got there. So just looking back, what would you be telling your 18-year-old self now?
What would I be telling my 18-year-old self? I don't think I'd tell my 18-year-old self to do anything different. I think that when you start any journey, you're never going to know the path that journey is going to take. It's discovery. It's all about learning stuff on the way. At 18, when I started my university course at Swansea University, yeah, I had the ambition to, to have a job with a briefcase. That was the ambition. And it's been a long career, and I've learned to reinvent myself several times. And I must admit that on several occasions I meet people and they say, oh, well, I knew Anne Boden that used to work for insurance. So I said, yeah, that's me. And they go, yeah, I used to know somebody who used to do so-and-so. Yeah, that's me. We've all got the ability to have fantastic careers. And those careers are long careers. And I'm starting the next phase of my career now. And so don't be prepared to make changes. Be prepared to take things on and enjoy it. Because isn't it fantastic that we have the opportunity to do all of this? And I'm still very, very excited.
And always enthusiastic, and your energy always just amazes me. It shines out. Over the past 15 months, things have been tough. You talked about the financial crisis, and I know that you have people's well-being at your heart, but with the pandemic, things have been tough. We've had, what is it now, 15 months of working remotely. Maybe you'd be kind enough just to share with us how that has been for you, the sort of what leadership you've had to give to the Starling team, and bringing the team through that. I'm sure you'll say to me, going digital wasn't a problem because you're all set up to do that. But bringing the team with you, and making sure that everybody was doing what Starling has continued to do, right? Because you guys haven't stopped developing, you haven't stopped releasing, you haven't stopped doing new things, companion cards and all of these things that have been really needed by people to support them in this pandemic. But maybe you'd share with us how that has been for you and for the team to continue delivering to your customers during this really tough period.
Well, when it all struck, we were going to come to Cardiff in order to open our new office in Cardiff, and the first impact on us of the pandemic is the very difficult decision the day before to cancel that meeting, that opening ceremony, and that was a huge disappointment. But now we have 550 people, working in Cardiff. And that's hugely exciting. But what we've done during the period is that we have transitioned to working from home very, very easily. We've launched lots of new products during the lockdown period, but also we came up with a way of engaging with people. We have something called Never Home Alone. And Never Home Alone is 2 to 3 times a week. We host an Ask Anne session where 9:15 in the morning. It started out me 3 times a week, and now it's me probably once or twice a week, answering questions from all our staff. It's live, and anybody can ask anything. And every other Ask Anne, we have a guest participant, and we get to engage with that person and ask them lots of questions. We've also had a whole program of events where people can participate in sessions on looking after themselves, whether it's nutrition or mental health. And then we also have other programs to help people cope with working from home. So, and sometimes we do some fun things like, well, I won't go into that, but last time we had picnic blankets, with Starling on it and whatever. So we do lots of things in order to engage with our people.
And I mean, lots of people have had to adapt, but being a new, fairly lean, sort of open-minded organisation, I'm sure that your adoption and the team that you've had around you most probably sort of embraced that even more. And it's great, but it's not a surprise to hear that you're talking about Never Home Alone. It comes back to caring about people in the financial crisis, caring about people in the pandemic. It sort of goes alongside the Starling values, I think, Anne, and they clearly come from the top from yourself. You talked about the opening the office in Cardiff, which sadly you couldn't do back then. You've shared with us that you're employing 550 people here in Cardiff. Can I congratulate you on that? So that speaks well of the skills and the talent that we have here in Cardiff. Why did you want to come to Wales, Anne?
First of all, Wales is an economic and logical choice. It has the area is full of very, very great universities. We have a great population that has experience in financial services and technology. And also, it's my home country. Okay. And if I talk to the board, that is not the reason we're coming to Wales, but it is something I'm very, very proud of. I'm very proud to bring great jobs and great technology jobs and valuable jobs to South Wales. And yes, it is important to me. And I believe quite passionately that we need to generate the right sort of skills, and that the leveling up agenda in the UK is quite important. And wouldn't it be great if South Wales could be the place where we lead the world with respect to financial technology, FinTech? I love tech, and we have the opportunity of building great businesses in South Wales built on data science, machine learning, and all the creative skills that go with building a bank.
And I think, Anne, that's a really important point to make, isn't it? Because the jobs that Starling are creating here in Cardiff are high quality jobs. My understanding is that you've got some of your fraud experts here, you're building your data science here. Historically, it would be reasonable to say that South Wales had been known more for customer services. Now, whilst you and I are passionate Swansea girls, and we know that the Welsh people are very good at supporting customers, this is different what you're doing in Cardiff. You are building really high quality jobs here that are serving your customers and going to be driving sort of banking and disruption going further forward?
Cardiff is our biggest office. Cardiff is very important to us. We have the whole range of services being provided from Cardiff, and there's no reason why we couldn't double in numbers in the next couple of years. So this is a very, very important decision for us. We didn't have any incentives to come to Cardiff. Nobody paid us to come to Cardiff. This is not this is not something we're doing for some sort of grant or incentive or a social mission. We're in Cardiff because it's the best place for us to be, and it gives us the edge.
And that's very kind of you to say that. And I think no pressure for us here at FinTech Wales to make sure we could get you those skills and that talent, working with the universities. And we're delighted that later on today, Starling is working with us, with students here in Cardiff, to make sure that we fill that pipeline for you. And maybe, Anne, just maybe, the young students of South Wales won't need to go to London to get that job with a briefcase, if a job with a briefcase now still exists. But,
no, job with a handbag now, a Prada handbag.
Okay, well, I'm not sure all students would want to be carrying a Prada handbag, but let's be inclusive. But the aim here is to give high quality careers to people, and they can stay in South Wales and do that. After all, it is a beautiful place that we live in. To be on the beach, to be on the mountains. Not that we're going to keep flogging it, but it's a great place, and we're delighted, obviously, that you're here in Cardiff. Let's just move on a bit to Starling, because we've seen digital adoption absolutely rocket. At the beginning of the pandemic, if we can all remember back to March of last year, I think someone told me that there was something like 12% of the UK population, some 6 million additional people, downloaded their banking app for the first time. This has driven the adoption to online banking. Talk to me about the impact that had with yourselves at Starling, and what you're doing coming off the back of that.
Yes, we have 2.5 million customers. The most extraordinary thing is that over the last year, we've loaned more than 2 billion to small businesses. And that was a very exciting development for us, in that we were known as being a current account bank, providing the very, very best features to personal customers and small businesses. But when the pandemic came, we had to respond. Lots of those businesses needed to borrow money to keep their businesses going. And we were there for them. And we managed to get those products into market very quickly. And we're really, really proud of that. So that's a big, big commitment. Starling is now, sort of 1,500 people, 2 billion of lending, 6.5 billion of deposits, 2.5 million customers. We're now a substantial organization, and we are, producing product every single day. And I'm really, really excited that we're at the start of our best period, I think. What we've been doing over the last couple of years is really building up all that infrastructure as a platform to launch something extraordinary. And I think we're coming out of the pandemic with a population and businesses that have embraced digital. We have moved forward 10 years in the progress towards digital, and there we are, ready to grasp all these opportunities.
And Anne, you're so right. I mean, the services that Starling are giving to small businesses, we know the SMEs are the lifeblood of the economy in the UK, and being able to bring those services to them, being able to sign up to open those accounts. I've got all of the Starling accounts, as you would expect, business, joint, personal, kids are all on it, as you well know. It's just such an easy, slick. It allows the businesses to do what they need to do, which is to run their business. But you have been developing the offerings for those business customers, again, through the pandemic, serving those customers all the way through. I made reference earlier to connected cards, which is something more from the personal banking, but maybe talk to us about what you've been developing for those small businesses, and some of the services and some of that platform as you go forward.
Well, Starling has a marketplace, whereby the marketplace is where we offer services to complement our main offering, which is a Starling current account. Just to give you an idea of the main offering, we offer current accounts to personal customers and businesses. We do those in sterling, dollars, euro accounts. We offer international payments. We offer saving spaces where you can take a photograph of something you're saving for and save to it in saving spaces. We offer all the controls on your card. And then we offer cards for a child card, which is called Kite, and also various services where small businesses can avail themselves of a business toolkit where they can produce invoices, link into HMRC and do all their various returns. So what we're all about is using technology to make businesses' lives easier and individuals' lives easier. And we always want to be innovative and create these new products, and that intrigue of what's happened on Starling today, what have we done, what have we delivered, and it's very, very exciting. And lots of our customers are fans. A lot of our customers are really emotionally attached to the offering, which is really great.
Yeah, and you see that on a regular basis, Anne. I mean, I know you're prolific on Twitter, and lots of your customers are constantly posting lovely pictures. And I think it was a competition you did recently, the partnership you've got with Pub in the Park, and some of the engagement that came from that. You can see that the customer base is very much engaged in what you're doing, but that's because you're delivering to them what they want.
Yeah.
And as you said, right now supporting those small medium businesses, the lifeblood of the economy, has enormously helped over the pandemic. So just as we go forward, because I know you're always very generous with information. I think I saw something on Kite this morning. You talk about your offering for children. What's coming next, Anne? What can you tell us about? Are you going to give us any secrets here and tell us here first?
This morning we're launching a new app for children, young people to use with their card. It's called the Kite card, which people have at the moment, but now we have an app to accompany that. And that is something which is customers have been asking for the last couple of months, and we're delivering that this morning. But there's lots sort of being worked on at present, but I'm not going to give the game away because that's the secret, isn't it? So you have to be surprised. So keep watching Twitter, Sarah.
We always will, and it's great to see that you are developing with children in mind. We talk about financial education, we talk about awareness of money. I know you and lots of your team are passionate about financial education, and this is going to go some way to getting those younger savers, younger spenders, engaging with the language that we use in the financial services sector. And just diverting for a moment, Anne, because we talked before about being a woman in banking. I'd also like to talk about the work that you've done quite tirelessly on making money equal.
Yes.
Because I know this is something that you feel quite passionate about. So just share with us where the thinking for that came from, and where you are today.
Yeah, Make Money Equal is our campaign to influence people to talk about money in the same sort of terms when they talk about women and money than men and money. So for example, and this came from me actually sitting in the hairdressers, 3 years ago. And I was sitting in the hairdressers when you could go into hairdressers and leaf through the magazines. I remember those days. And and there's a pile of women's magazines and a pile of men magazines. And the women's magazines were all about scrimping and saving and being guilty about buying those shoes and saving up those coffees in order to buy yourself something, sort of quite trivial. And the men magazines was all about investing in crypto, buying power suits and deserving money and being prepared to spend money. And I thought, well, that's one thing we can do to actually start changing people's narrative about money. And we did research. We went into all the various magazines and periodicals, and we figured out what people said about women and money and men and money. And we started a campaign to make money equal. Now, this year, we've taken that campaign one step further, and we've done make money equal on images. Because when you look at images about women and money, it's a childlike person, sort of holding a piggy bank. And when you see men and money, it could be, men sort of with wads of cash or buying that Ferrari. And we realize there is a lack of imagery available for journalists and bloggers to use to illustrate their work. So we have a free website where you can go and you can download these images and you can use them as long as you credit us and the actual photographer. So it is helping people have pictures that view men and women in a very neutral way when they talk about money.
And I mean, it's amazing, Anne, isn't it? Who thinks that a banker is going to create a sort of a Pinterest board for images? But it just goes to show how different Starling is.
Yes.
How different it is from the bank branch in Hampstead where you started off doing all of the jobs, and how far you've come. We're building our website here, so I'm going to be looking at those bank of images, and as we've said always, we'll borrow them with pride, Anne, and we absolutely will make the right accreditations. But yeah, really, really good to.
Well, please use them. They've gone down so well, because some of the images out there for money are pretty old-fashioned.
Well, and again, it's that whole approach, isn't it? So good. Let's see. You just mentioned the word crypto. The world of finance going further forward, and you've talked about platforms. You've talked about what you're building, and you've given us that insight to you're only just starting, right? You've got your platform, you've got your infrastructure. There's a whole load more to come from here. But can I just ask you about crypto, if you don't mind? Because there's a lot of talk about that in the marketplace at the moment. What's your stance on decentralized finance?
I think that we are, looking forward 5-10 years, I think it'll become mainstream. However, we're in a very dangerous phase at present, in that the world is unregulated. And I think that's the intention. And in an unregulated world, things are dangerous. We see that a high percentage of payments being made to these exchanges, most of which are unregulated, are fraudulent in some way. And I think that we have to be very careful to protect all our customers from the dangers of some of these crypto exchanges being used as a way of getting fraudulent money out of the legitimate system.
As you said, this is a new a new sort of way of banking. I often refer to it as almost being like the Formula One in the pit lanes. There's lots of things being tested, and some of them will end up in the mainstream. And you put the sort of 10-year timescale on that, but over the next, 1, 2, 5, 10 years, whenever it is. But lots of things at the moment, as you said, are being tested. And I think just going back to protecting people about money, wanting to do fair things about money, that desire for things to be regulated. Obviously, we want all consumers to be protected, and regulation is certainly very important. And and I remember back that having a banking license for Starling was really important. You always wanted to build on those solid foundation. So it'll be interesting to see where decentralized finance and crypto goes from here. I think let's watch this space.
Yes.
When we watch this space, what's next for finance? You've built the platform. Where do you see it going next?
We have European intentions to get a banking license in Europe. And that's probably the next stop. We are very excited in some of the developments on embedded finance. We already have a very successful bank as a service offering, where we provide those services to many fintechs and other institutions in the UK. We are currently planning on doing much more of that in Europe.
So I think the embedded finance is really interesting, isn't it? Because when we talk about, and I know you're an expert on PSD1, PSD2, all of the open banking APIs, but when we talk about that open banking, we've sort of moved to open finance. We're moving to open data. And here today at FinTech Wales, we're actually launching the first cohort of the first ever FinTech Foundry and Accelerator program here in Cardiff. And we're really excited about some of the new businesses that are joining us here today. So when we think further forward and we think about that embedded finance, how do you envisage the world?
Yeah, I think that my views in the world change. I think that open banking has been slow to really give benefit. If I was talking 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I thought that open banking would have transformed things by now. That hasn't happened. I think that is, referring to your analogy earlier on by testing things in the pit, whatever. I think that we are still at that trying things out stage. I don't think we have really come up with open banking solutions that are easy enough to use and have enough utility for individuals and businesses that they transform. I think we're still working for those solutions.
Well, I'm looking forward to those days. I can't wait to go back into my kitchen, talk to my Alexa, and get it to do all of my banking for me, or just wherever I am for these things to be happening. I'm forever the optimist. But one thing that I'm sure about, if there's anyone's building the platform and is going to be there first, I'm sure we're going to hear it out the Starling stable first. So just on reflection, Anne, you've been really generous talking to us this morning, and I thank you enormously for the time. It's been lovely personally to catch up. For those people listening, I hope they don't mind. They've sort of just nipped into a conversation where we've had the opportunity to catch up. If you were to think about what you'd like your sort of legacy to be, what would you like people to be saying about Anne Boden in 10 years' time? What would you like to be remembered for, Anne?
Well, I think it was all quite boring until she was 63. And then when she got to 63 or 62, she came up with this fantastic idea that really took the world of finance and technology by storm. So I've yet to start.
I was just about to say, I know how old you are. Not everybody does, but I know you haven't got there yet. So what you're saying is the best is yet to come.
Yes.
Wow. And and we'll really look forward to that. I'm going to wrap us up now, because I know you've got a bank to build and customers to serve, and we've got a Wales Tech Week here happening in Cardiff, and it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Diolch yn fawr. I'm looking forward to the opening of the Starling office. I'd like to think we'll be on the invite list, because if I know something, going back to what you said earlier, there'll be plenty of dancing, Anne. There'll be plenty of dancing.
That's right.
And so, is there anything that you would like to say to anybody here in Cardiff who's listening to you for Wales Tech Week? Well, I mean, hopefully you'll be down with us in person very, very soon.
I'm very, very excited about this important week. It's going to be fantastic. Good luck, everybody. And I'm really, really excited about FinTech in Wales. Have a great day.
Thank you, Anne. Diolch yn fawr.